68 degrees outdoors, 73 indoors. All of a sudden it's colder out than in. Oh boy, yesterday we had the air conditioning on. I did not turn the heat on this morning, although it is cool inside. Oh boy, we've got alto cumulus castellanus. That's mid-level instability and moisture, often a precursor to a thunderstorm. Don't worry, we're not going to have a huge thunderstorm outbreak, but just enough energy in the atmosphere today to perhaps make a few showers and a rainbow late in the day. The storm of yesterday is offshore. Remember last week we were thinking, this thing may stall and back in on us a little bit today on a Monday. We thought that about 6 days ago, but here it is. Sprawling high pressure system to our west. Cold air advection. The low to our east is going to meander to the east. There still is some upper level energy and some surface convergence though. Here in southern New England, the wind is gusting to 22 miles per hour with a temperature in the low 70s and a dew point falling through the 60s. On Mount Washington this morning, the temperature is 40 at the top, 60 at the bottom. That's a 20-degree gradient and less than a mile of the sky. And look at the wind is only about 16 miles an hour, less wind on top of Mount Washington. And the satellite imagery shows these clouds kind of broken. The solid cloud of yesterday is off to the south and east, and then you have these clouds kind of just blossoming right over our head in Boston this morning at 8 o'clock. And then over New York, a thicker cloud. So there is this energy that's going to come through. And just a chance for a shower or a thunderstorm. Start with yesterday. What a day. Everyone was like, where's the severe weather? Boston, the Red Sox played a whole game. Well, the severe weather was in Connecticut. Susan in Waterbury, Connecticut in the afternoon. Look at that. That's a severe thunderstorm going through Waterbury. And there was a lot of water, too. The rainfall jackpot yesterday was Plainville, Connecticut. 3.8 inches of rain yesterday. More flash flooding in Connecticut. I haven't done the math, but parts of Connecticut must have had 12 to 15 inches of rain in the month of June. Vermont, there were showers and thunderstorms yesterday, but not as much rain. But parts of northern Vermont also had close to a foot of rain. And yesterday, Stephen James White Sr. captured a rainbow over Lake Champlain as the sun went down. Lots of rainbows reported yesterday. What was the biggest surprise of the day was the miss of severe weather near Boston. Tucker Antico saw it. I was thinking the same thing Tucker said. The severe weather watch went up at about 11, but by 2 o'clock he said the severe weather threat in the Boston area was diminished because the explosive growth of thunderstorms in Connecticut sent an anvil cloud north into Massachusetts, and that put the suffocation on the instability. That put a blanket on the fire. You need the sunshine ahead of the storms to get the heat, the fuel, the severe weather. So great job on that, Tucker. And I was out in the backyard kind of waiting and watching and thinking the same thing you were. There was supposed to be a second round. There was supposed to be severe weather in Boston. And in Boston, here's how much rain came down. 0.02. I got a little more than that, but Red Sox played. There was lightning going off. They didn't even stop the game. That was kind of interesting. And my friends on Cape Cod, Peter Hecking, the storm survived right across Buzzards Bay. And Peter says, yeah, it's just pouring outside. At the same time, Chuck Stockdale for the win in the shed. When thunder roars, go in the shed. Thank you, Chuck. 1.2 inches of rain in South Dennis. And it looks like Harwich get about 1.4. So the showers and thunderstorms were stronger on Cape Cod and the islands than in Boston. All my friends say, oh no, the storms always die over Cape Cod and Nantucket. Nantucket, Martin, do you know how much rain you got yesterday? 0.96 inches, just about an inch of rain yesterday in two batches, the early morning batch and the late day batch. And guess what? That is the rainiest June 30th on record on Nantucket yesterday. So the puddles all over the place. And we still have green grass here. T-Rex wrapping himself all around. So speaking of wettest ever and all that, how about coldest ever? Again this morning, not here, but in the Midwest, Illinois, Wisconsin this morning, record low start to July. with temperatures in the 40s, and 50 in Bloomington, Illinois was enough for a record low for the entire month of July. So it's always a clash of the air masses that causes the thunderstorms. And today, not really a clash of the air masses, just leftover instability. Here's the HRRR showing just a couple of scattered spots of what could be hailers, actually. The freezing level is much lower than it was yesterday. Yesterday, the freezing level was at 15,000. Today, the freezing level is at about 7,000. And so, quick shower or a thunderstorm this evening. And even after dark there's a couple left. That's about 10 o'clock when those things finally go away. It's boating. People ask me about my audio problems. So when I zoom in, it used to be the microphone on the other side of the camera would take over, but I think we resolved that problem. But there are still two microphones to deal with, and it's because of the iPhone. Sometimes it uses that microphone, sometimes it uses this microphone, and it jumps back and forth, and that's my audio issue that I have. So I'm sure there's a remedy out there. I just haven't found it yet, but I'm working on a remedy to that. So we talked a lot about yesterday and today, and I'm really happy to report that this week looks like the most quiet week we have had in weeks. After today, some of us might not see rain for 3 days. How's that for timing? Peak vacation season, Independence Day celebrations, and fireworks weather. Without fireworks and without fog. The dew point is coming down. High pressure comes in. It's a sprawling high. We may have some record low temperatures. Here's tomorrow morning's map. Look at the size of that high. Light winds, dry air, radiational cooling. We're getting pretty close to a new moon. I didn't check the moon yet. And then just gorgeous weather. And let's go to just the day by day with the Euro, lower 48. There's the high coming in here, tending to be troughing in southeastern Canada. And the high moves slowly east and then south, so the wind will come around by Wednesday, back from the south, and getting rather gusty Wednesday afternoon southwest, with a weak front in northern New England will trigger some thunderstorms, more robust storms off to our southwest. But that front's going to come in here and kind of fall apart. But it's still over us on Thursday. Air from the north and northern New England, air from the south and southern New England, so there should be at least clouds, if not a shower or a thunderstorm, for July 4th. But nothing real organized. And same thing on Friday the 5th, Saturday the 6th. Jenny, it looks like your birthday should be quiet, but then there is a front coming in later Saturday into Sunday, so some more storms are possible in about day 7, day 8, and then something may become organized with a low coming by here about a week from tomorrow or Wednesday, and that could be some heavy rain. So the worst weather on our side of the planet is over the Caribbean. I guess there's a little bit of good news. Beryl weakened to a Category 3, but that's a major hurricane. And it may strengthen a little bit as it goes right over Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And these islands, so small, so beautiful, so vulnerable. I couldn't find any webcams on that. A wider scope shows that the hurricane center named Chris on the Mexico coast yesterday. So we're already to the C storm, or it's done. It's tropical depression now in Mexico, same place where Alberto went. Nowhere near as bad though, with the rain and wind. And then the next system coming from Africa behind Beryl is forecast to go almost the same exact track as Beryl into the Caribbean as a strengthening tropical cyclone, perhaps named Debbie. We may be on the D storm here, with the fourth named storm happening by July 4th. So we are setting records. All this strongest ever, earliest ever. We remember ever. Well, we've only been having satellite data of hurricanes for 50 years, ship's logs for a couple hundred years, but so I'd say ever means about maybe 200 or 300 years in our modern world. So we're gonna have the most beautiful Tuesday ever tomorrow. Wait, every Tuesday has been beautiful lately, but this time it's gonna go Wednesday and Thursday also with a rebound. Temperature's gonna go back up to near 90 by the 4th, but I think the dew point is only gonna slowly climb out of the 50s to near 60. maybe even not even to 60. So dry air from Canada moving in right now. Yesterday we did a lot of kind of working in the yard. I pruned these roses. Jack Ewell from the University of Rhode Island Extension. He worked at Rosecliff in Newport, Rhode Island. Taught me how to prune roses. He goes, go down to the just above the 5-leaf branch and snip. Just above the 5-leaf branch and snip. And you get more roses. You can see something's eating the roses too. Didn't weed there. I did a lot of weeding out front. Weed, 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 weed. All right, good weeding weather. I'll leave you with a lot of my commentary yesterday and a time lapse of the sunset. I did not have a rainbow, but it was very pretty. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow. Rabbit, rabbit. Do you see a rabbit, rabbit? I think Steve sees a rabbit, rabbit. Look at him, he's like a lion in the jungle. Oh yeah, I forgot to show you Steve playing this morning before we went out. He was in a very playful mood. And why not get Mitt in there too? This was before we got out the door this morning. All right, let's go to the Enmore from yesterday. Steve may or may not come out with a critter. There's one line forming. It's only 1 o'clock. Severe weather watch went in at about 12 or so. Didn't take long for this to go. Got to 83 inside the house before we turned on the AC. Steve says, I'm hot. Even with that summer cut, you're hot? You are hot. We're playing at Fenway today too. Oh yeah, and there's a NHL Stanley Cup parade in Florida on June 30th. Forget about that. Where you going? Looking for the shade, Steve? Yeah, we need the shade. It's hot. In the sun, it says about 92, but I think it's more like 85 with a high dew point. Cleaned out the rain gauge. It was looking like a terrarium with things growing in it. 2 inches of rain the last couple of weeks. And ready for more. The wind not that strong down near the ground. Line of showers and storms getting pretty close. Got severe weather and flooding in Connecticut right now. And the velocity azimuth display near Albany says the wind up about 5 miles in the sky is 100 miles per hour. The cloud tops are at 47,000 feet and the freezing level's at about 15,000 feet. So the raindrops go up, turn to ice, keep going, come down in a downburst. That's where you get your hail and your flash flooding and possibility of a tornado. Little Castellanos over here. 3 o'clock, waves in the ocean, waves in the sky. And we've got a slight attempt at some mammatus clouds, named after, I believe, the memories of a cow. Usually a cloud forms because warm air is rising into cooler air and it condenses and makes a cloud. But sometimes, especially in thunderstorms, you can get the warm air lifted and transported well downwind of the storm. So you get a warm air layer, and also from the storm, there's a cooler outflow boundary beneath the warmer air, and that warmer air is forced down into the cooler air, and you have a downward forming cloud called mammatus. But not quite mammatus, just a little teaser. Raindrops at Fenway, so you can see there's a little gap. The rain that's going by Fenway now, it's just sort of blowing off the top of those bigger thunderstorms that are still well off to the west-southwest, looking like they may miss us to the south in this first round. Just had a lightning bolt right over Fenway Park, 3:15. Even though the bulk of the storm is missing off to the south. I think the sun's gonna come back out here. We may be a complete swing and a miss on severe weather near Boston. Meanwhile, up near north of Bangor, Maine, there's a tornado warning right now. Wow, heavy duty lightning. Just 1 or 2 way north of the main storm activity. And there it is on the radar. And also the tornado warning in Maine. Another shot at mammatus. And we just had a lightning bolt. It was pretty bright, huh? Is it gonna rain?
Yep.
It's gonna rain.
Guaranteed. guaranteed.
I'll be out in the yard pruning.
Just look out the window.
Maybe I'll climb a
No
ladder.
computers. Look out the window. That's all you got to do.
I
It's
can't
gonna
see
rain.
out the window. I think it's over there. Oh, that window? Roger's window. Go to the front yard. Oh, the backyard, I mean. 3:22, so the rain arrived here about 15 minutes after it got into Boston. Had a couple of lightning bolts. I just looked at the satellite image, and the cloud extends way back across much of Massachusetts, so I'm not sure how much more development we're going to get from that second line that's developing near Albany, New York, even though it's expanding quickly. And even though you can see a hole in the clouds right there, there's not really a hole in the clouds. That's just sort of overlapping. We're seeing through the higher layer and above the lower layer off to the west. So it looks like we're going to downpour here for, I don't know, maybe 10 or 20 minutes. We'll see how much we can get in the gauge between now and then. I'm in my bathing suit. I can keep on working in the yard, right? When thunder roars, TK goes outdoors. Don't do as I do. Do as they do. Going home. Focus, Tim, focus. No wind. Mostly gentle rain, kind of fat raindrops. 4:20 p.m. It's been raining close to an hour. 0.06 in my freshly cleaned gauge. There are no severe thunderstorm warnings left in southern New England right now. But there are, however, tornado warnings in New Brunswick, Canada. Was there a tornado watch in New Brunswick, Canada? 5:20, sky waves, looking fun. It's still warm, a little less humid, and although we had a few good lightning bolts, I wouldn't call it a thunderstorm. There was very little wind and not much rain. Is it over? I'm not sure if it's over yet. So 0.13 here at 5:30. Meanwhile, in South Dennis, Jeff and Peter Hecking reporting tropical downpours. And then just up the road on Mayfair, Chuck says we had 4 to 6 inches of rain in the last 20 minutes. Chuck, I've told you a million times to stop exaggerating. Yeah, I know that's your line. But at least we get worms here. The worm farm in South Dennis, got that. The worm farm here in Weymouth, it's doing fine. Although I planted a ton of seeds in there. I planted 1 million seeds in there and none of them grew. And the rabbits aren't eating the tomatoes yet because there's no tomatoes, just leaves. But I'm sure as soon as there are tomatoes, they'll eat them too. Is that enough for today? I think it is. But of course, I'll do more and more and more, and time lapse. There goes the waning convection off north of Boston. Boats are coming in. Sun's gonna come out from underneath the cloud. Should be a pretty spectacular sunset. I don't think my webcam does the best job with time lapse. So I'm gonna do a time lapse on a tripod with my iPhone and see if that comes out any better. 7:30. The crow's pointed slightly toward the north. Very little wind right now, but we've had a few puffs from the west of much less humid air. Should I zoom in a little bit more? Fast forward the time, but leave the natural sound. "40 minutes. Let's go in for the grand finale, so to speak.